Psychoanalysis. Psyche is the mind, and we are trying to analyze this. My name is Amanda Fallon, and today I'll be telling you about psychoanalysis. This topic was brought into mind by Sigmund Freud, so I'd like to tell you a little bit about him first. According to Science and Its Times Journal, he was born May 6th of 1856 in Moravia and died September 23rd in 1939, London. He went to high school at the age of 9 and then went to med school in Vienna in 1881. Going to high school at age 9 is very young, so as we could see from that, he was quite intelligent. In 1885, he traveled to Paris to study with Jean Martin Charcot. She was a very famous neurologist. Together, they worked with hysteria patients. Later, in 1886, he returned to Austria. There he got married and opened his own practice. He developed the term psychoanalysis at this time, which was how he described his treatment plan. Sigmund Freud's main focus was the connection between the conscious and unconscious mind. The unconscious controlled our behaviors, and our dreams were a window into the unconscious mind. His writings were The Interpretation of Dreams, written in 1900, 3 essays on the theory of sexuality, written in 1905, The Ego and the Id, written in 1923. These were his main books, although he had many other writings and theories. Many of his ideas were controversial. People thought that his ideas were a reflection of his own happenings in his life, such as sibling rivalry, dreams of his incompetence, sexual feelings towards his mother, and things like his wanting to die towards the end because he had mouth cancer. Jane Snyder discussed modern psychoanalysis in her writing. She said that it was developed from studying psychotic patients as well as patients with borderline and narcissistic disorders. Therapists now look for projection, which are feelings the patient has. They think that the patient themselves has the feelings and the therapist will have the same feelings, such as if the patient is picky, the therapist also seems picky. Transference is when the patients think that the therapist will possess same qualities that his parents had. So, for instance, if the patient's mom was impatient, then the therapist must also be impatient. Psych is focused on drives, such as eros, which is life drive and associated with biology, things such as eating and sex to reproduce. Thanatos is the death drive, such as dying and infliction of hurting. In Thanatos, patients repeat behaviors, and this inhibits their growth. Examples of Thanatos drive are sadism, which is the patient wants to inflict pain of their so-called lover rather than having sex. The pain is the Thanatos and the death drive, and sex is the eros. Another example is war, which is where people obviously rather kill than having the other people live. Snyder discussed narcissistic defense as the patient's form of coping. Needs of the patients are not met as a child. The mother object is needed as satisfaction. Overstimulation and neglect do not provide the need for the child. If you overstimulate the child, they won't feel loved. You can't just shower them in gifts. And if you neglect them, then they're obviously not being loved. So this can result in paranoia, depression, and anger. The patient engaging in the narcissistic defense has little psychotic energy available for further mental growth and health relations. This was said by Snyder. Therapists may see aggression and rage. This can be projected on the therapist. The patient thinks the therapist doesn't care. And overall, Sigmund Freud forever altered the ways humankind looked at its own thought process. This was said by Science and its Times Journal. So I hope you enjoyed learning about psychoanalysis with Sigmund Freud, his thoughts and treatments. Thank you for listening today, and have a good one.